Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Gnomoria. We are going to discuss the population window today. So if you understand the population window, professions, how to assign people, what it all means, how these things relate back and forth to each other, feel free to skip this episode. Go ahead and comment and say, hey, I came, or whatever, and, jump to the next video. But if you want to be a guru and understand how to get your population working as a, correctly as possible, at least it's according to, from what I've found out in the last 4 years of actual, 4 years of game time with my guys, and what's functioning really well, even in a stressed environment for them, then pay attention and hopefully you learn something. All right, so what I've done is I've created a bunch of different jobs and to specialize each guy. Now, each job, they have different jobs over here, different professional jobs attached to each profession. Now, I'm going to say jobs a lot, but when I say jobs, I mean profession. Note this, everybody in my colony has the three based off of this: caretaking, construction, and hauling. Everybody has that. The only one person that does not have it is my tinker, and that's because I don't want him doing anything other than tinkering and working in the workshops related to tinkering. But other than him, everybody has that. So if I say this, that, and the other, this is a given that they have doctors and they have caretaking, hauling, and construction. Now, a lot of these jobs over here relate to these jobs over here, as in stone, mining, masonry, and stone carving. Mining is the art of mining out the surface, or the ground, the terrain, digging down, all of that. Only your people that are assigned mining will be able to do that. Nobody else will. Masonry and stone carving are the tables. That's just the, right here you have the stone mason, and then the stone cutter. Those are actual jobs, so it's considered workshop for those jobs. Anybody that's assigned masonry and stone carving will only do those jobs when their job priority task reaches workshop level. For my miner, I've got him set to mining, building, then working in the workshop. So his main priority is, if I say go mine something, he's going to go mine it. He's not going to do anything else except maybe eat, sleep, or drink, but he will go mine. If he's carrying something, he'll finish that task and then go mine. If he's building something, he'll finish that, then go mine. Then, when he's done all of his mining and there's no more mining that I've set to do, he will then come back and work in the stone workshops, because he only has stone jobs. If he had wood jobs, he would work in the wood workshops also. All of the jobs dealing with these different individual workstations relates to workshop. So masonry, stone carving, wood cutting, carpentry, smelting, blacksmithing, metalworking, all of the jobs that relate to professions they're controlled by, priority-wise, by workshop. There are a few specials that don't, literally say anything. We'll get on that real quick, and then I can break into the listing. Horticulture is one. Horticultural is the act of cutting down trees, gathering stuff that I tell it to harvest from the ground and whatnot, and that relates over here to agriculture. So wherever your agriculture is in the job priority list will determine when the guys that are assigned horticulture will do horticulture and farming. Now, remember, you can set the priority list for every individual job, so it's never an issue. Don't worry. You'll see more as we go along. But just remember that there are a few specials, like doctor, which is medic and caretaking. Medic and caretaking relate to hospital. It's not doctor or health or medic, it's hospital. So anybody assigned to medic, they will do their medical jobs when they get to hospital in the priority list. Caretaking is the same thing. Caretaking is the act of bringing food and water to somebody else in a hospital bed. So if one of your guys get injured, if it's a bleeding injury, they will heal that bleeding injury themselves. They'll run to the closest band-aid or bandage, and then they'll fix their injury, or fix the wound, the bleeding, and it'll go away. But if they get an injury, like an injury to their eye, their arm, their leg, their hand, their chest, everywhere — you can get injuries everywhere in this game — they will go to a hospital bed if you have a hospital set up. And at that point, it requires a medic to come bring a band-aid and heal them. They have to be healed. They can't take care of injuries themselves unless they're, nobody can heal themselves. They can just band-aid bleeding injuries. That's it. So you requires a medic, which we do have a medic. We'll get to that later. Caretaking, though, you want everybody to have caretaking, and you want it to be hospital to be up into your list. That way, if somebody goes to a hospital, they'll sit there until the medic can get to them. And if the medic happens to be sleeping, it might be 8 hours before the medic actually wakes up and comes and brings them a Band-Aid to heal them, to get them off the bed. During that time, they might get hungry or thirsty. They will not go get their own food and water. So somebody has to have the caretaking ability to bring it. So I just give it to everybody. That way somebody will eventually get to the hospital working job in their priority list, and somebody will take them some food and water. I don't think they'll starve in a day or so before the medic can get up. But still, you want it there just in case. But let's go over the list. I think that's all of it. Oh, there's one other thing. Construction. Construction is the art of literally putting stuff together. Putting down new tiles, putting up new blocks. That's all under construction. It relates over here to build. Building is not working at one of these tables. That works under workshop. Building is go pick up some wood, go pick up that stone block that I just cut, bring it back over here and make me a chiseled stone floor tile. That is building. That's build and also construction. So if you find out you've got somebody that's got like 1 or 2 in construction and it's just taking them forever to do it, you can go into their job category, undo construction, and they'll stop trying to build stuff. That way they're not taking 10 years to build stuff. You've got plenty of other people. In my colony right now, I got 13 people. 12 of them have construction. I can survive if that one job that has a 1 in it doesn't do it. And I have had a guy like that. And fortunately, he fell and another guy fell on top of him and killed him. So, problem solved. But let's go back over the skills. Again, I will show you all of the skills, but I won't show you these bottom 2 on most of them because it cuts out just them 2, and I can show you real quick from here. All right, so let's go over the first set. Miner. Miner has all stone, and he's got mining set as his first priority, then build, then workshop. Hospital and hauling will always fall after everything that's important. So he's got mining, build, and workshop. What this means is that he will mine if mining is to be done. He will come back and build anything that needs to be built if he's got no mining tasks. And then he will work in the masonry and stone carving workshop if there are no mining or building jobs to be done. Now you'll notice that my mason is exactly the same. He has exactly the same skills, including the pottery and prospecting. Both of them have pottery, prospecting, and then these 3 in stone. But the mason works in the workshop first. Where the other guy's downstairs mining, the mason will be up here building stuff, or crafting stuff with the workshops, I'm sorry. And then they'll both build, and then they swap. They don't literally swap. Basically, what having mining here on this guy third and workshop third on the other guy does is if this guy goes out, he's working in the build shop, the working shop. Okay, he has nothing to do in the workshop. He's got nothing left to build, but there's some mining tasks. Then he'll go down and he'll help the other guy mine. Basically, instead of having 2 miners that do workshop, build, and mining, if you had 2 of them as mining would be first priority for both of them, which would mean that if I set a big area to be mined away, and I had some jobs that needed to be done with stone, both of them would go down and they would mine that entire area first. Then they would come up and then they would do the stuff in the workshop. That's bad practice. I need to get both of them done at the same time, and then they can help each other out whenever their main 2 priorities don't need to be done. If that makes sense. So basically this guy, he'll go help mine whenever he's got no work up here to do, and the other guy will come up here and work when he has no mining to do. Pretty simple there. Lumberjack and carpenter are the same way. They have all 3 wood jobs, and then horticulture. And then the carpenter's the same way, has all 3 wood jobs, then horticulture, and then those, of course. And if you'll notice, it's the priority listing that's different. Where my lumberjack does agriculture, hey, I want you to go cut these trees. I go to cut, I go to agriculture, and then I select fell trees, select all these, or I go to take clippings, clip all these trees, or I go to forage and forage all this stuff. First thing he's going to do is go do that. I needed somebody to do that. That way I don't spend 3 days waiting for people to finally get a couple trees and risk them being outside at night. I want to be able to say, hey, go cut them trees down, and then have a few people that would just go cut them trees down. That's my lumberjack. That's what he does. He's a wood guy. On top of that, he's got horticulture. Horticulture is the cutting and the the pruning and all that stuff. That falls under that. That's why he's a lumberjack. Wood is just the ability to work in the wood shops. So he will. I had prioritized him to cut trees. Then he'll go work in the grove, which I don't have any yet, but I plan to build some. Then he'll go work in the groves and do the tree work there, which in the grove you can have all 4 different trees. You can have the pine, the spruce, the apple, and the orange trees growing. Then he will go build stuff and then work in the workshop. As you'll see, my carpenter is backwards. He's in the workshop, then he'll go build something, then he'll go cut the trees down and gather forage. Then he will go work in the groves, because I don't need both of them doing the same things. And that's the difference between the two. You'll notice that a lot of them are that way. Like miner and mason are that way. Lumberjack and carpenter are like that. My rancher and my farmer are like that. My brewer and my cook are like that. I mean, a lot of them have doubles where they could be the same job, but by doubling the job up and then changing the priority schedule for both, it makes it smoother. Somebody's always doing multiple. It lets them do 2 jobs at one time and then combine together on a specific job afterwards. My tailor has all of the cloth. He'd also my tailors do leather working also. Other than that, they help with horticulture. There are more that I send to go get trees, but if you notice, the agriculture for them is pretty low. In fact, it's only above hauling. That's because I don't want my tailor. My tailors are very important. Your tailors make they tailor your cloth, and then they turn that cloth into Band-Aids. I like to keep about 80 Band-Aids in my, or at least 64 in my little fort, my front guard shack, or whatever you want to call it. I like to keep a bunch of Band-Aids there. That way, in case when the guys fight, they'll get bleeding. They'll come back. They'll grab a Band-Aid. They'll go back and fight. They'll get bleeding again. So they might use 2 or 3 Band-Aids in a fight. Your whole group together might use 3 or 4, maybe even 5 Band-Aids in a fight. I need my tailor to be making that cloth, to be gathering or bringing this cotton and turning it into cloth, and then turning that cloth into Band-Aids. Plus, they also assist in making beds and other things. So I needed 2 people to do that, and that's what I've done. I've set 2 tailors. Priority-wise, they work in the workshop making that cloth, making those Band-Aids. Then they'll go put stuff together. Very rarely will they ever leave the workshop, other than, when everything's made. Takes a week or so of game time. Then hospital. They'll do that. Then they'll do some agriculture work, which is the horticulture. Then they'll go help gather stuff and cut trees, if I've said it. But very rarely will you see your tailors doing that. They might, but very rarely. All right, then you got your flesh carver. This is the guy that deals with all of the beasts and the monsters, the bone cutting, and stuff like that. This guy has bone carving. Then he has, under the rancher, butchery, and then the normal. But this guy is also my medic. It's the only medic that I have, and it's probably the only medic that I'll ever have will be my flesh carvers. You don't need more than 1 medic, at least not up until 4 years into the game. So I only have 1. Now, bone carving is the art of cutting corpses and stuff up into cutting the bones, working on the bones that you get from them. Butchery is the actual art of cutting up the corpses. You have these pastures. When your pastures, how I showed you, if you right-click it, you can set how many maximum. All right, once I get to 1 male and 4 females, any new babies that are born, they will wander outside of it. They won't be able to stay because it's called excess. Those excess animals, extra animals, my flesh carver will come grab them, carry them back to the butcher table. Once I set the butcher table to do so, you have to go into the options of the butcher table and tell it to slaughter excess livestock. But once you do that, then my flesh carver will come and he'll grab that extra, carry it back, he'll butcher it, and I'll get about 10 meat, 10 bones, and a skull from it. Then they'll turn the meat into sausage. They'll turn the bones into things on the bone table, at the bone carver, and that's why my flesh carver has bone carving. I figure all that works together: bones, animals, and meats. And then he'll also help people. He'll heal he's the medic for the people, because the other 2 jobs won't keep him busy. Medic won't keep him busy. And as you look over here, his main priority is to work in the hospital. That's where he goes. That's where he stays. That's what he does. If there is somebody injured, he's the guy to help. The only time he won't be helping somebody that's in a hospital is if he's sleeping when they go into the hospital. Then he'll work at the workshop, which is the bone carving table, because that's the only other workshop that he's got assigned, right there under Miss Bone Carving. Then he'll help build stuff. Then he'll haul stuff. Other than that, this other crap, he rarely will do. He won't do any of this. He'll just kind of stand there. All right, then we have our ranchers and farmers. These are exactly the same. The only difference, again, is the priorities. They both have animal husbandry. They both have horticulture and farming. There is one slight difference. They have horticulture, farming, and caretaking and whatnot. My ranchers have horticulture. My farmers do not. Or no, they do. I'm sorry. It's something else. Oh, that's right. I went ahead and gave horticulture to my farmers. They didn't have it originally. I went ahead and gave them horticulture. That way it would be exactly the same. That way when I'm explaining it, it would work. And it'll be fine to have it. Don't matter. But where it comes down to is the job type priority. My ranchers are the guys that deal with my cows and my emus and my llamas when I get them. So their main priority is to make sure that these guys are fed and happy and that they're in the right pens and all that other stuff. They have babies, and the babies will wander off sometimes, and he'll have to go grab it, bring it back. Once he brings it back, it's assigned there, and it'll stay there. It won't leave again. But when they initially have babies, sometimes they'll wander off until your rancher can get them and assign them to that pen, if there's room in that pen. If there's not room in that pen, then the flesh smith will grab them, cut them up. So you want to have somebody assigned as a priorities pasture. That's why I use my rancher. Secondary, he'll do agriculture work. Anything, because he's got horticulture. Anything that I set to do, he'll do. Then the third is he'll go help the farmers. That's the only three that matter with these guys, because they will only be doing them three. They will not have enough time to finish all three of them and then go build something or go work in the hospital or haul something. Not until way later. Your farmer's exactly the same, except my farmer is working on the farms first. Then he'll go cut stuff if I tell him to. Then he'll help the rancher in the pastures. They're complete inverse of each other. One works in there, does this, and then comes and helps here. The other does this, then he'll come and help here. So that's them three. Rancher, farmer, my artisan. These are the guys that do all my metalworking and stuff. They also do horticulture. I'm starting at the bottom this time because it happens to be scrolled. But they'll also go cut that stuff down. But if you notice, it's way under everything else. Way down here is the agriculture control. So very rarely will my artisans have the ability or the free time to go cut trees down. But I put it in there because I found that at one point that I had after I got to bronze, all of my artisans were just standing around waiting on new bronze. I needed more tin, and it could be actual really real-time hours before I actually found some more tin. So they weren't doing a whole lot of metalworking because there was no tin to do bronze with. So I set them to horticulture to help out, and that won't affect them now, but late game or middle game or so, 3-4 years into the game, when you're actually doing the mining for tin and iron and whatnot, when they're standing around, they'll go cut down trees and gather stuff if I've set it to do so. And instead of just standing around. It's one other thing they can do. They also have all three metal and both the gems, and they have all the engineering jobs. So that's what they have. They have the metal full X, meaning all jobs in metal, all jobs in gem, all jobs in engineering, horticulture, caretaking, and then all jobs in miscellaneous. They will work in the workshop first, which means that they will do any metal work that's been described, any gem work that's been described, and any engineer work that's been described. Unfortunately, what I've done is I've moved my mechanic all the way down low, so they won't do the engineering jobs unless they won't do any of the mechanic work. In other words, if I click a bell, they won't stop what they're doing to go ring the bell. If I tell somebody to use a lever, they won't stop what they're doing and go do it. Now, they will work and help out in the engineering tables and the workshops because it's part of their workshop. But until I get a solid, 2 people in tinkering and stuff, I put these guys in there. Once I have another person that I can put as tinker, I come in here and I turn this off. For right now, it's good to have these guys be able to go do the tinkering stuff, work in the tinkering workshops, until I get another tinker. That way my tinker can tinker instead of having to be constantly the only person to do the other stuff, to do the workshops for tinkering. They'll also do all metalwork and gem work. Then they'll build stuff, then they'll go to the hospital and hauling, which are the last 2 for everybody. Then you have your cook. Cooks do absolutely nothing except for farming and cooking. They'll do caretaking and stuff also, but basically their only jobs is farming and cooking. Farming is in relation to agriculture and farm, rather. I'm sorry, it's farm. Cooking is in relation to workshop. Agriculture controls horticulture. It's up here because at one time I had horticulture enabled for these guys too. But what I decided to do was go ahead and make horticulture enabled on my brewer only, and then my cook helps with the farming. So so he has my brewer and my cook both have farming and brewing for my brewer. So he's got horticulture, farming, brewing, and then them others. That's it. That's the only job that your brewer has. And then my cook has farming, cooking, and caretaking. That's it, just farming and cooking. My cook, of course, and my brewer both work in the workshop. They both then do agriculture. They both then build, and they both then farm. And that's just because they're just helping my farmers. They don't have to. It's not a priority. See, workshop, agriculture, farm, and then build. Where's my cook, actually? I want to remove farm up. That way they'll workshop, agriculture, then farm. So both of them are the same, except the brewer has horticulture and brewing, and the cook has farming and cooking. That's the only difference. So let's go. This is a special class that I use. It's called Soldier. You do not have to use this class, but I choose to use it because I don't want my soldiers doing anything except for soldiering. I build a fort post, an outpost. In that outpost, I stock it with bandages, food, and water and drink, and I put beds there for them. So they never have to leave that outpost. And in fact, the only time they will ever leave that outpost is if they're chasing monsters into the kingdom, which never happens. Or they happen to be going to the smelter or whatnot to get some new armor that the guys made at the weapons armor shop or the weaponsmith. And then they will then keep doing their thing and come back. And the reason why is because I set up these training grounds, and I have them in groups of 2 training at the training grounds. That way they're constantly training. If they're awake, if they're both awake, they're training. If they're not, if one's asleep, the other one will be standing there waiting for him to come back. And the reason behind that is that the way the soldiering works in this game, if you assign groups to the military, and then but they have main jobs up here, like they have these main jobs, if you have to design or change or whatever, you stop their training. If they are not training, if they are not doing a guard patrol or guarding a position, they will do their jobs. They'll keep their armor on and stuff, but they'll go do their job, whatever jobs you've got set. And they move really slow in the armor. So they will go really slow and go do this. Well, the bad part about all that is that if you've got your thing set up over here, and there's a bunch of stuff clear up top here that needs to be moved around, and they go up there to haul it, and then you get attacked by goblins. They're halfway across the map, which is bad. You want them in there. So I want my guys in there all the time. So I remove all jobs, name it soldier, and then any soldier that I get, I assign to that. That way they will never leave their post. They will never leave the guard shack or whatever, the little guard outpost thingy. They will always be there. They might be sleeping, but they will pretty much always be there in case goblins attack. And if a goblin attacks, even if they're not training, they'll still be there. If their buddy's sleeping or whatever, they'll assist in the assault and repelling that assault. So that's why I have this. And then finally, you have your tinker, which is set to do all of the engineering jobs, and that's it. He will then work in the workshop, mechanic, and tinker. A tinker, when you set a tinker to tinker, he will do absolutely nothing. If I put tinker as a top priority, he will only for the entire game do absolutely nothing except for tinker. He will then leave to eat, sleep, and drink, and come back and tinker. That's it. Starting out, because I don't have my metalsmiths, I have to put the workshop and the mechanic above tinker. That way, in case I want to make something, he will then stop tinkering long enough to go make that, then come back to tinkering. If I need a lever pulled, he will then go pull that lever and then go back to tinkering. This is temporary. Whenever I get my 2 metalsmiths, I tend to take this off and move tinker to the top. That way he'll do nothing but tinkering. And why is tinkering important, you might ask? Well, tinkering is the way that you get access to all the traps and the fancy stuff. I do not use them, but a lot of people do find them fun and humorous, and they use them. I prefer to let my soldiers kill the bad guys that are coming in. That way they get better in their skills, because you actually get more skill ups and more experience from actual combat than you do from training. So I like to let my soldiers kill the goblins instead of using the tinkering stuff, because you can make metal walls that will pop up out of the ground or that will open and close for doorways. You can make trap doors that they can walk up and step on. And if you have a like if there's 3 of them in a row in 3 blocks, the one steps on a lever, a floor panel lever thing, and the other trap doors will open up and the other 2 might fall. And if you've got the hole dug 3 or 4 deep, they'll fall to their death and it'll kill them. Or you can set it 1 deep and they can fall down into a little basically like a little gutter or a little trench, and they can't get out, so they're stuck down there. So then you can bring your archers up alongside of it, and you know, as long as you're more than 1 block away and they're more than 1 block down or less than 1 block down, your archers can get at them from the angle and range them and shoot them. So I mean, you can make these little killing fields, killing traps, to where your archers can get some actual range. But preferably for me, I don't like to play with them. I might tinker with them in this Let's Play if it goes that far, just so that you can see how to use them. But I don't actually implement them. But that's what a tinker does. But the most important thing about your tinker is you need to get him to at least level 3 so that he opens up the crossbow. Now, a lot of people like, some people don't, the crossbow. The crossbow is your first access to ranged. After the crossbow, you get access to the blunderbuss, which is a little bit better, but it's a little bit shorter range. Remember, a blunderbuss is like a handheld shotgun from the old days. And then after that, you end up getting an actual pistol. It's a flintlock pistol. And the flintlock is the one that I tend to go with. And then beyond the flintlock, you get a really nice pistol. But I like the flintlocks, and I use them. So you have to keep tinkering, and he'll tinker. And the way the tinkering works, I'll show you that whenever we actually get to tinkering. But he'll go stand at a tinkering table, and a little slow progress meter at the very bottom when you look at him, when you look at the station, will show you the tinkering experience learned. And it takes days and days and days and days and days to level that tinkering bar up, usually seasons, to level up that tinkering thing one time. But he progressively gets faster. By the time I had learned 2 tinkering things, my guy was well over 300 in tinkering, because that's all he does. So, I mean, he learns really, he levels up really quick, which means that the tinkering discoveries come quicker and quicker and quicker, you know, the further along you get in the game. Finally, the last thing that I do is I set up a new profession. And if you look at it, you'll see that they're all checked and marked for this. And the reason that I do this is for this window. In this window, if you hover the guys over here, you'll see their top 5 skills. If you look at their job, it'll show you every skill that relates to a job that's assigned to that profession. So for the butcher, if you go to my miner, there you go. Mining only has the 3 stones, pottery, prospecting, caretaking, and whatnot. So if I go down here to my miner, you'll see mining, masonry, stone carving. Them are the 3 stones, pottery, prospecting, caretaking, construction, and hauling. But looking in these windows, you can only see either their top 5 or the ones related to their jobs. That's not good enough. You can go here, hit skills, and then you can see all of their skills. And if you see, they've got a bunch of skills. Well, typically, once you assign somebody a job, that doesn't matter. But when you get a new guy in, you can assign a nomad. When you get, on the first of every month, you get some nomads sometimes. It's a random thing, but you could get some. I got 4, if you remember from the last episode. If you assign them the new profession, notice there when I hover it, it shows every skill that they have. This makes assorting these guys out and assigning them to new jobs so much easier, because I can look at this guy and I can see already that he's really high at weaving. So he's got an 18 in tailoring. This guy would make a good tailor. Well, guess what? He was a tailor. So, or whatever he was. I don't know. What was this guy actually? I don't know. He was something. But he would make a good cook. He would make a good brewer. He would make a good tailor. He's pretty good in everything. But now I've got my 2 tailors, tinkers. This was my miner, mason, rancher, tailor. I'll figure it out afterwards. Excuse me. But anyhow, that's what the benefit of doing that is. Remember, over here it shows you the top 5. Here it shows you all of the skills related, doesn't matter how high they are, but the skills related to the jobs that profession is assigned. And then over here it shows you what they're doing, whether they're foraging, sleeping, idling, stocking, building, whatever. The final window in here, or actually I didn't show you deceased. Deceased will show you all of the listing of the people that you have had that have died. Any of your peasants die, or your gnomies die, they list up in here, and you can click it and it'll show you how or why they died. But the final thing is the overview window. What this window does is it shows you how many current people you have assigned that have the ability to do a profession. I have 3 people assigned right now that can mine. I have 3 people assigned right now that can mason. I have 3 people that can do stone carver on the stone carving machine, etc., 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 all the way down through the list. And if you'll notice, I have all of these ones. Who did I assign that? I didn't assign anybody to... Oh, I got him set to a new profession, which means that he can do everything. This guy needs to be something else. I don't know what he was, but I'm going to set him to Tia. Tia is not my miner. Let's see. Carpenter, cook. Where's my brewer? That's what it was. Tia was my brewer. So we'll set her to brewing. And that makes sense because her brewing's at 33. All right, now if you go to overview, you'll see that smelter, blacksmith, metalworking, all of this is 0. That's because I don't have my artisans yet. Metalworking is not going to be done until I go deep into the ground and start getting copper and tin and iron and all of that. That's going to be a few episodes in the future. So I'm not going to be doing any of that yet, so I don't need them right now. But that is the only jobs, the metalworking stuff, that is 0. Everything else has at least 1. This lets you look, like there you can see all my caretakers, builders. That's because everybody does that. I've got 5 people helping on farm. I've got 8 people helping on gardening, which is, the same thing, horticulture. 1 butcher, 3 ranchers, 1 mechanic, 2 prospectors, 2 leather workers, blah, blah, blah. There's reasons behind all that because remember I assigned multiple jobs. But this gives you a quick view of what you're lacking and what you've got an abundance of. You can also set the default uniform here. Like I could set default uniform to plate mail, and all of these guys are going to look back. The game's going to look back to military under uniform plate mail, helmet, breastplate, pauldron, greaves, all of these that are assigned to the plate mail. Anybody that can is going to grab one of them and put them on. You don't want to do that. You want to set up your military individually. So basically you want to leave this as none. Until you have enough leather or something light, then you could put leather on them all, and you could then make a uniform and put a few leather pieces, maybe 1 weapon or something, something easy to drop or easy to pick up, and then you could set it to that. But most people don't. I don't. You probably shouldn't. But that is this entire population window. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've learned something from this. And we'll see you in the next episode where we actually start playing. We're going to set up our military in the next one, and I will explain how to build this because it can be complicated. And it'll probably be another half episode of me explaining all of this. But once you understand the population in the military window, everything becomes a lot easier. It's not so daunting anymore. I mean, those windows can be very confusing for new players. Once you understand what everything does and how to formulate the setup and how to get stuff to work together, then you end up with a really nice community working really well together, and you can go on back then at that point and have fun with the game. The initial setup's the only part that sucks. Beyond that, it's just, hey, let's go dig something. All right, we need some iron. Let's go find some iron. And you babysit your miners while you're going down, and you find some iron, or tin, or you find some copper, which will be the first thing that we'll find, is a bunch of copper. So that's this episode, guys. I will see you in the next episode. If you enjoyed this and learned something from it, please like and subscribe. And most of all, most important to me, above liking and subscribing, is leave a comment. Say, hey, like the video. Hey, hated the video. Hey, this is wrong with the video. Hey, do this. Hey, do that, please. Because all of my videos thrive off of your user responses. And if I'm not getting any user responses from you guys, then guess what? I'm not going anywhere. I'm doing the same thing next time. Hey, thanks for watching. Have a great day.